Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Chaplain Wesley McDuffie from our own Tarrant County. Thank you for being here today, sir. After the invocation, please remain standing for our prayer.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you. We thank you for being so kind to us here in Tarrant County. We realize as we look at the news and we follow the trend of things happening throughout this world, we find out how kind you've really been to us. And Lord, we don't take that for granted, but we wanted to pause today just to say thank you for allowing your grace to fall upon Tarrant County. Lord, you bless us through our different commissioners, our commission precincts. You bless us through our constables, our sheriff's office. And Lord, you've also blessed the detainees that we have resided in our facilities. And we thank you for that as well. But Lord, we just pray that you continue to hold us, that you continue to guide us in the direction that you would have us to go. Sometimes we seem to get off the wagon a little bit, but Lord, you seem to put us back on track every time, and we thank you for that. Yes. But in order for us to be the best, we have to ask you to lead us and guide us, that we will always stand and always be in your favor. And we thank you for that, Lord. There's been a few deaths around us. Yes. But Lord, we know that some will die because we're born to do that. But Lord, you've given us grace and you've allowed us to take care of our own. So Lord, I just pray this day that you bless this court, this county. It's in Jesus' name I pray and ask it all. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Chaplain.
Thank you. Thought about going to the sixth floor, sir.
We could hear you from here.
Okay.
Isn't it amazing, his voice?
It is. It's kind of like the Lord speaking to us.
Yes, it is.
Through him.
Members of the court, we have several announcements relating to this agenda and then one general announcement. First of all, under the appointment of boards and commissions, item L2, we do have an appointment this morning that Commissioner Fickus is going to be making. Under the briefing section, item 12E, the Anti-Poverty Pilot Program, we are going to hold that for a short while. The individual who is going to make the presentation is not well today, and whenever she becomes well, she'll be back in court to talk about it. And then finally, members of the court, just to remind you and the Tarrant County community, we do not have Commissioners' Court meeting next Tuesday. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of April the 10th.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Commissioner Fickus. Motion passes unanimously. We have a couple of proclamations, or proclamation and a resolution, and we'll begin with the proclamation on our Flight to Freedom, Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. And, okay, somewhere around here I have, yes, we have a couple of folks. We have Valencia. That's it. You got that just right. With Family Connection of Tarrant County, and also Jennifer Berg. Yeah, that one too. Y'all are doing real good this morning. We ought to have you back here on the first Tuesday. Why don't y'all come on forward, and I'm going to read this into the record. Whereas Tarrant County ranks second in the state in confirmed cases of child abuse, And whereas 10% of children and youth between 12 and 17 in the United States reports being a victim of sexual assault, 18% report physical assault, and 24% report witnessing violence. And whereas up to 15% of these children will develop post-traumatic stress disorder, and whereas symptoms of PTSD can mimic those of depression, bipolar disorder, and other serious mental illnesses, and whereas many parents do not understand the cause and effect of PTSD on their children, and whereas many in the community do not know how to avoid re-traumatizing children, and whereas the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study shows that children who experience trauma in childhood are more likely to suffer as adults from such diseases as diabetes, cancer, heart disease, stroke, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and whereas Family Connection of Tarrant County is observing Children's Mental Health Awareness Day by holding the second annual Flight to Freedom Festival in Fort Worth on April the 28th, 2018. And whereas the Flight to Freedom Festival will release butterflies to focus attention on help and hope after trauma. And whereas Family Connection of Tarrant County is committed to improving the system for our children with mental health needs, now therefore be it resolved that Tarrant County does hereby proclaim April 28, 2018 as Children's Mental Health Awareness Day in Tarrant County, and be it further resolved that Tarrant County supports the work of Family Connection of Tarrant County and joins with counties across Texas in support of Flight to Freedom, Help, and Hope after trauma. In witness whereof we have here to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 17th day of April 2018, and I'll move its approval.
Second.
A motion is second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. This is such tremendous work, and I want to thank y'all so much for coming down today and being a part. It's gonna, she's gonna flash at least three. I used to say sometimes she goes forward, so she just she's back to three now. So please make any comments y'all like to make. Thank you again very much.
Thank you, Judge Whitley and Commissioners, for having us here this morning. This means a lot to the families of Family Connection of Tarrant County, as we are parents raising children with mental health diagnosis and struggles, and having this event in our community to raise awareness for Tarrant County and to be partnered with the state of Texas for this Flight to Freedom event is an honor for us. We would like to release butterflies at our event, and that is it signifies hope and healing after trauma. And we want to just have a very family-friendly event to raise awareness for children's mental health. And we want to thank you guys for recognizing family voice in the mental health care system.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I would just like to say we are learning more and more and more each day about the effect of trauma on children and how it plays such a critical role in their development. It's, you know, all the technology, all of the stuff that we're learning as a result of that, it's, you know, it's challenging, it's helpful, but it's scary also. And I appreciate very much, and I know the rest of this court does, the work that y'all are doing, and really the work that everyone is doing within Tarrant County to try to focus on our kids. We have numerous programs right now where we're trying to make sure they have good child care, whether they can, you know, recover from these traumatic events that either they are a part of or they witness. the reading projects, so much, the out of poverty projects that we have going on. There's so many opportunities, and I want to thank your organization and other organizations that try to bring people together and volunteers together that focus on these children in these at that particular age. And I know we've got other folks that help with MHMR of all ages. We've got the older adults, but these children really are our future, and the more we can do to help them and to help understand the effects that this trauma has on them, the better off we'll be in the long run. So thank y'all again very, very much. Commissioner Johnson, I believe you have a resolution.
I do. I've got one for AgriLife Extension volunteers, and if you would read that into the record, please.
Whereas citizens who volunteer their time provide assistance which cannot be measured in terms of dollars. Their dedication to making this community a better place to live is the foundation for economic development, environmental stewardship, and healthy living. And whereas Tarrant County Extension Volunteer Force is a great treasure, with 1,353 volunteers last year who donated over 76,539 volunteer hours, which is the equivalent to an additional 37 full-time employees. And whereas volunteers can connect with community service opportunities of Tarrant County's AgriLife Extension as master gardeners, 4-H adult leaders, program area committee members, Texas Extension Education Association members, master wellness volunteers, and leadership advisory board members. And whereas Texas A&M AgriLife Extension relies on knowledgeable volunteers who serve as master gardeners to assist the people of Tarrant County in protecting and enhancing the environment. And whereas Harold Annis, retired pilot, U.S. Navy Reserve, has been an exemplary master gardener for 7 years. In 2016 was named the Master Gardener Educator of the Year and currently serves on the State Master Gardener Board of Directors. And whereas Mr. Annis is an engaging and enthusiastic speaker for educational programs, regional home and garden shows, and Master Gardener Speakers Bureau. And whereas Mr. Annis serves as co-chair of the award-winning Heritage Outdoor Learning Center. And whereas Mr. Annis is deeply committed to the mission of the Master Gardener program, devoting nearly 2,000 hours in the past 5 years, averaging 8 hours a week. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, recognize Mr. Harold Annis and all the dedicated Extension volunteers for their service to the people of Tarrant County in honor of National Volunteer Month. In witness whereof we have herein to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 17th day of April 2018.
I move for its approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And speaking of master gardeners, we've got Mr. Harold Annis present. If you'd come forward, Steve Cheney, Extension Agent, and Judy Ratzlaff, Master Gardener and President.
Harold, tell him where you're from.
Oh, I'm from Southwest Texas.
Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you.
And I hope you are doing something. Of course, he doesn't live out there anymore. He deserves it, y'all.
Yeah, I'll stand behind that, Jimmy. Usually where I am. That's your spot. Thank you. How's that?
Well, thank you all for all that you do, and any comments you'd like to make, please do so. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Let me go first. Thank you so much. We really appreciate the Commissioners Court, Judge Whitley, and Tarrant County Extension for supporting the Tarrant County Master Gardeners. And I want to share a little bit more information with you. I came back from a state conference that was the first part of April. And in the state of Texas, we have 7,000 Master Gardeners. We have over 400 in Tarrant County. In the state of Texas, we worked 600,000 hours. And when you take out what the rest of the state did and what we did, other counties, the members are working an average of 83 hours a year per person. In Tarrant County, we're averaging 129. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, first I better thank my wife for putting up with all my absence. And thank Judy and Steve.
You know, it's funny, she came to us and thanked us for allowing you to
Oh,
do it.
yeah. Well, that could be so. And thanks to the Commissioners Court for providing the funds to fund the work that we do and the Extension Office. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for everything you do as a volunteer. You know, they do a tremendous job. I know we've got them some greenhouses out there at the Resource Connection, and we're
Absolutely.
doing some more work in that particular area, and
They're doing well too, they're fine.
that's great. That is absolutely great. So thank you all. Thank you very, very much for all the time and effort. You'll be out here next month when we have our employee recognition, the first Tuesday in May, and they'll be selling plants and little herbs and things like that. And so, again, we cannot thank our Master Gardeners and AgriLife for everything that y'all do and all the volunteer hours that you give. So thank you very much. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second. A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have a public hearing today. Who's coming forward? It looks like Tricia's coming forward, so come on down and we'll do our public hearing.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're requesting a public hearing today to receive input into the Consolidated Action Plan for CDBG, Home, and ESG. This year, we have not received our allocations yet, but we expect about $3.8 million for CDBG. Of that, 2.6 will be used for public infrastructure, with the city's putting in about $2 million, and about $635,000 is anticipated we'll use for housing rehab. Under home, we expect 1.2 million, with $400,000 for housing rehab and $500,000 for housing development. The $500,000 will be matched with tax credit deals and bond deals. On ESG, that's for emergency shelters, we anticipate $220,000, and $132,000 will be used for shelters and $70,000 for prevention. The purpose of today is just to receive input. There's no further action. And we'll come back and submit the application to the court probably in a couple of weeks.
I will open the public hearing at this time and ask if there's anyone here wishing to speak to this matter. There appearing to be none, then I'll close the public hearing, and again, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia.
Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 3 items this morning. Mr. McMillan is going to address the first item.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Back in 2007, the Commissioners Court approved participation in the City of Arlington Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone Number 4, which is the Arlington Highlands, for the development of a vacant area that was along I-20, bounded by Matlock Road and Center Street. At that time, we approved participation with 75% increment for a period of 20 years through December 31st, 2025, or until our contribution reached a maximum of $4,629,268, and the hospital district approved a similar agreement at the same participation rate up to a maximum contribution of $3,998,957. In April of 2014, the Commissioners Court approved an amendment that raised the amount of project costs from a little over $16 million to $26.4 million, so that it would provide for the additional cost of the Center Street Bridge, but our maximum contributions remain the same.
Currently now, all project costs in that TERS have been completed well in advance of the completion of the zone. So the City of Arlington, though, still holds some outstanding debt financing a portion of the cost. It is the city's intention, however, to terminate the TERS this year, and they're requesting that all the participating entities allow that any funds remaining that they have already contributed to the TERS remain in that fund to pay cost of that debt. The remaining funds will not totally reduce the cost of the debt, but the City of Arlington feels that the sales tax dollars that are now being received from the Arlington Highlands Center are enough that they will fund the remaining payments of the debt for that for those projects that were funded by the city. So they are asking today that we approve a second amendment that adds a sentence to Section 6 of our agreement that will allow us to keep those funds in the TERS should they terminate the zone. To date, the county has contributed just over $3 million to the TERS fund, and the hospital district has contributed approximately $2.7 million. This will be approximately $1.5 million less for the county and $1.2 million less for the hospital district from the maximum contributions that were contracted. Upon termination, the county will start receiving approximately $405,000 annually that we have been paying into the TERS, and the hospital district will be receiving $364,000 annually back to our general funds. So today we're asking that you approve the attached resolution and amendment number 2 to the participation agreement between the City of Arlington and Tarrant County, and amendment number 2 to the participation agreement between the City of Arlington and the Tarrant County Hospital District for the Arlington Tax Increment Financing Reinvestment Zone number 4, clarifying the provisions for TIF fund final accounting for early termination of the zone.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second, so I want to be sure I got this straight. They're asking us to leave the money in there that to leave the funds in the TERS. They're going to use the sales tax to pay the remaining debt. So whatever you said we've paid $3 million in thus far, that's including the money that's in there right now.
Correct.
And we won't be accumulating any more money in there.
Correct.
So in effect, Arlington is basically saying we're going to cut this thing off early. Instead of you paying the 4.2, we're only going to ask you to pay 3. Instead of paying the hospital district, we're only going to ask you to pay 2.2. And we're going to pay more because the sales tax is working out so well out there.
That is totally correct. So this
Vote
is
quick.
Please change your mind. It's one of the most successful TERS in Precinct 2 for sure, and maybe even in Tarrant County. So businesses are flourishing. The UPS major depot is going in there. The Summit Racing is also going on the other side. They are construction, so it's working really well. It presented another problem, Judge, is traffic problem on I-20. So.
Well, I really want to thank Arlington because, again, that's a situation where they could have kept the TERS open. And could have collected another $1.2 million from us and another $800 from, a little over $800, I guess, from the hospital district. And instead, they're closing that down, and they're agreeing to pay for that with additional sales tax.
That is true. So as Commissioner Wynn said, this has been a successful project, like most of our TERS have been in the county. So I think that's important for us to note so that everybody down in Austin all sees the examples of what Tarrant County does in participating in their tax increment financing districts.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And thank Arlington very much, as I'm sure we all will, for doing that.
Your Honor, members of the court, we have 2 additional items. Under A2, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve interim financing for funding year FY 2017 grant renewal with HUD for Community Enrichment Centers 3 CP, which provide rental assistance for homeless individuals and families in Tarrant County. This funding would be a maximum of about $75,000 once the grant has been approved and we've received it. The county will be reimbursed for any expenses on this.
I know we have done this many times in the past for county-related organizations. This is a private organization. Can we do this?
It is part of the granting process that we have done with HUD in the past, and the answer to that is yes.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Finally, members of the court, on item number 3, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve and concur with action of the Board of Managers of the Hospital District to approve the easement of a right-of-way agreement between the district and Encore Electric Delivery Company for property which is described as Lot 1, Block 1, Plaza Grande, in addition to the city of Euless, and is more particularly described in an instrument which is on public records of Tarrant County. This basically is part of the new Northeast Community Health Clinic, and it's needed to get electricity to that site.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tidwell?
We have 2 items that we're asking the court to consider this morning. The first is the approval of the release of the $4 million of collateral as outlined in your court communication.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our second item is to ask the court to receive and file the auditor's report related to Justice of the Peace Precinct 8. You have our report, their response attached, and we will continue to work with JP8 and their staff on these issues, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Ponder.
Good morning, Your Honor. Commissioners, we're asking the court to acknowledge the receipt by Tarrant County of money due and owing for funds received by Judge Gary Ritchie, Justice of the Peace Precinct 6, which had not been previously tendered to the Tarrant County Treasury. That money has been received in full and tendered to the county auditor, and I believe the check has cleared.
Where it be?
Do we need to withdraw our request letter that we sent Mr. Ritchie?
There's no legal effect to that, Commissioner. This acknowledgement here, it means that debt has been satisfied.
Move approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I understand that this action does that, but I think it would be appropriate for us to send a letter to him acknowledging the fact that we no longer are looking for any funds, that's been fully resolved, and that he is no way held responsible for any additional funds in the future.
Very good.
Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Ms. Pellet? Good morning.
Good morning. We have one item for your consideration this morning. Requested that the Commissioners Court approve the schematic design and capital budget of the base project plus additions for the Juvenile Facilities Project included in the 2006 Capital Improvement Program.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. So I am assuming that in this motion, then, that will require a budget addition into the next year's budget of the $6.8 million or something to that effect?
We will be asking for $5 million in the FY19 budget and the remaining in the FY20 budget.
But this motion is only to approve the schematic design,
Schematic.
right?
And the total amount.
Both of those are included in this motion.
Yes.
So then the question is, from the auditor's standpoint, do we just have to approve the $5 million this year and the 1.8 then comes next year, or do we have to approve the whole budget knowing that when it comes to actual dollars, you may have to.
Well, I can't certify funds if the funds aren't available, so I'm more than willing to work with the Commissioner's Court, the Facilities Department, and the Budget Office to identify those funds. Those funds will have to be available. I can certainly take the approval action today, I would assume, but again, the auditor won't be able to certify the funds on the actual contract until such time.
And that was the only reason I asked that question. I know from a cash flow standpoint, we can go out, but I know that she, from a budget standpoint, needs to know that we've approved
And
the whole
those
fund.
contract, and the certification of funds available will be whenever we bring a contract actually to the court for approval. And there's going to be several contracts related to this. So every time we bring a contract, then the auditor will need to be able to certify funds. What Ms. Pelley has said that we believe that we'll be expending about $5 million of that 6.8 in next fiscal year.
Correct.
And then the other piece of that is the furniture, which will be a 2020.
And the 2020, that will be $1 million plus?
Yeah, 1.8.
Okay. As long as the auditor's okay, I'm okay.
I don't have $6 million.
Well, and I mean, but I guess the side of it is the contract, if we were to go out for a guaranteed maximum price, which we've historically done, that would be the general contractor, and the general contractor wouldn't be guaranteeing a price that included the furniture.
Right.
Correct.
So therefore, that will not be guaranteeing anything.
Plus what this action is today is not to approve a contract. It is simply to approve the design that you saw last week. And we believe that the total cost of that is going to be about 6.8. But as I said, whenever we bring those contracts back to the court for approval, then that's when the certification of funds available will take place.
Okay. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Ms. Glenn.
Good morning, Ms. Glenn.
Move to receive and file personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file the personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have 4 additional items for the court. The next 2 items are waiver of terminal benefits. The first one is for the auditor's office. Ms. Tidwell is requesting a waiver of 96 vacation hours effective April the 23rd. We're estimating net savings to the general fund of approximately $8,000, including fringe benefits.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
The second waiver is from Precinct 1. Commissioner Brooks is requesting a waiver of 280 vacation hours effective April 23rd. We're estimating the cost to the Road and Bridge Fund to be approximately $25,000, including fringe benefits.
Just parenthetically, these are related to the retirement of Mr. T.C. Webster. I have just made an offer to replace T.C., and we will be replacing Mr. Webster with Kathy Young Jr. With April 23rd effective date.
Good. Now, do we have a motion? Okay, you want to make that in the form of a motion?
I move waiver of terminal benefits.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So our fourth item, we're asking approval of a change in the table of organization for Precinct 3. Commissioner Fickus is requesting the addition of an office administrator position effective April 17th. We're estimating the cost to the Road and Bridge Fund to be approximately $35,700 and some change, and that does include fringe benefits.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our final item, we're asking the court to approve amendment number 15 to the senior supplement plan and amendment number 12 to the Medicare Advantage health plan terms and conditions agreement between United Healthcare, Pacific Care, and Tarrant County. That's a mouthful. Basically, we're asking the court to approve these agreements. These agreements are effective 1/1/2018, so these are a little bit late. These agreements simply update, or these amendments simply update the agreements with 2018 cost, and these agreements have been reviewed by legal counsel.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And Judge Whitley, if I could just take one moment and remind the Commissioners Court and county staff that we are hosting our 2 retirement planning seminars this week. So we're holding 2 seminars. Again, they're identical seminars. They do not require an RSVP. We have one scheduled for tomorrow at noon, and then one on Thursday at 8 a.m., both here in the Commissioner's courtroom. These seminars are targeted for employees who are 2 to 3 years out from retirement. Of course, any employee who wants to come and learn more about our retirement system is welcome to join us. So we have actually the seminars are set up in 3 sort of components. We have our Representative Carlos, who'll be here from TCDRS, and talk specifically about employee accounts, county matches, that kind of thing. We have a speaker from Social Security who'll be talking about benefits through Social Security and how they impact our employees. And then finally, we'll have a presentation by HR representative, and we'll be talking about health insurance options for retirees. So.
Wilder wanted to know if there was lunch served at.
No, sir. No. But it is a good session, very informative. So again, we invite any county employee who'd like to come out and learn more about their retirement plan
I cannot
to take
stress
advantage.
the importance. I hope that if you're, as Tina mentioned, if you're within 3, 4, 5 years of when you think you're going to retire, or if you just haven't attended one of these before and you're eligible, you really ought to make an attempt to come to these things and understand. I am amazed when I talk with folks, the number of them who have not used the tools which the county has available to them to determine where they are or what they might be eligible for in retirement. So I really cannot stress enough how important it would be to come and to ask the questions you may have, and give them a shot, give them an opportunity to explain some things to you and some things that you may want to be planning for over the next few years, or that may surprise you just right now from that perspective. So please, if you have an opportunity to, I would strongly encourage you to attend one of the 2 meetings.
Yeah, thank you. They're really good sessions.
Thank you.
I would advise my elected official colleagues that if you show up in one of these, rumors are going to start.
Some of them may start anyway. A while they're wanting to know about lunch. I mean, you can't tell.
Young man,
Have you looked in the mirror lately? Your brain may be obscuring your vision. And come on down here before we get out of the...
I just want to say about Kathy Young Jr., she'll be the first woman to hold this position in Tarrant County.
I guess she still won't be able to work with public health.
Y'all will have to work that out.
Okay.
We have the first woman assistant director, and she is retiring, so, in April, so we're losing her.
Too bad she didn't make it to the top of that hill.
Okay. Ann, would you go ahead and get started here before we get out?
Yes, good morning. We have one item for your consideration. We would like to submit a letter of commitment to the Community Council of Dallas for support of their grant for an Empowering Older Adults and Adults with Disabilities Through Chronic Disease Self-Management Education Programs grant. That's a mouthful. But we already teach these classes here, and if they get funded, then we'd like to be able to work with them to continue educating more people.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you all.
Mr. Beecham, come on down.
Good morning.
Good morning. Morning.
The pink tie that Robert Early is wearing this morning came from my garage sale, I think, last weekend, but I could be mistaken.
You know, you always make those statements knowing that he's going to be speaking after you, which just talks and just speaks volumes about an education that Arkansas gives you.
Wow.
Melissa, do you want to give the agenda today? We have two items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is an RFP, number 2018-038, RFP for Information Technology Staffing Augmentation Services. Recommendation be toward, per the terms of the contract, awarding to the primary secretary and the alternate members meeting all specifications.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Number two, our last item, another bid award recommendation for bid 2018-051, Sarino contract for transportation of human remains. Recommendation be toward on a pre-enterprise basis, according to AccuCare Mortuary Service.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Come on down, Randy.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, Randy. We are requesting the court's approval of an interlocal agreement with the city of Grapevine related to change order improvements to State Highway 26, funded through the 2006 Transportation Bond Program.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You know, it looks like they've almost got finished with the Grapevine part of 26. Is there any hope of it ever getting finished through Colleyville?
Who knows?
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. You are filled with energy this morning, Judge.
I am. I'm just now, and I know because GK reminded him that Commissioner Fickus has a appointment to make.
Sure. To a tax increment financing district, I'd like to reappoint Rebecca Barksdale to the City of North Richland Hills Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone number 1.
Second.
That's a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Are there any other appointments? There being none, then we will move on to the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have one item to bring to you this morning. It's a monthly update from the hospital district. Mr. Early is here to address the court at this time.
With his pink tie.
Looks real good, Robert.
For clarification, you all do know that I'm colorblind, and I'm surprised that Jack mentioned it because when I came in, I sat down in the back, and Jack Beecham came up and he just stared at me for a while, and he looked at my tie, and he said, "That's a gorgeous tie. I have a suit and a pair of boots that match that." So I have no idea why. But I look forward to seeing you at the next party. Wanted to comment on the two presentations we had before the board, which I am grateful for. We had Sharon Wilson come from the district attorney's office and talk to our board members about the role that the district attorney's office plays in the hospital district. And I want to acknowledge our appreciation for the district attorney. They do good work for us, and I'm greatly appreciative of Sharon and her team, and also the appointment of Chris Taylor. Chris will be now at JPS and will be a part of JPS as far as helping from the DA's office. And that's going to be a huge help. They deal with our medical malpractice, and they deal with some of our other fall cases and other issues. And they're very helpful to us. And I wanted to thank Ms. Wilson for coming down and presenting to us. I also want to thank Mr. Manius for coming down and giving us an update on where we are and where y'all are. And I will tell you that Mr. Manius is very helpful, and as he updates y'all on where we're heading and where we're thinking about potential options for JPS, he's doing the same with the board. And I know I have my board chair here, and Mr. Powell and I both greatly appreciate Mr. Manius and his efforts to keep us up to date. I wanted to let you know of a tough subject that I hope everybody in the audience and you all will consider, and that is the ability to be an organ and tissue donor. Every day at JPS, one of our hardest things is when we lose a life. And we celebrated the sweet life of Cassie Contreras, a 15-year-old beautiful young lady who lost her life in a car accident. And at the age of 15, Cassie showed her maturity over others that may not be making that decision. But Cassie made the decision to donate her organs and tissue to better the people's lives. Because of the loss of that family and because of the missing of Cassie, Cassie saved 5 other lives. And that's really powerful. And there are, JPS was announced last month that we are the 3rd healthcare organization in the nation for organ and donor tissue. And I heard a comment that one of the cynics made, and that said that's just a numbers game. Herman in Houston is number 1, and Vanderbilt Medical Center in Nashville is number 2. And as we harvest those tissue and organs, it's not about a race to see who's number 1. I don't care if we're 50th on the list or 1 on the list. The importance is we save a life when we've lost a life. And so, don't mean to be somber, but I want you all to consider that every day, 6,500 people at JPS wake up trying to save a life, whether you're in the plant ops team or you're in nutritional services. And so when we lose a life, it's really hard on us. And so it's wonderful to know that there are people who check that box and try to figure out how to save other lives, because there are people today waiting on a long list that they've been waiting on for a long time, and we can help them, and we are there for them. So I want to thank the folks at JPS, and I want to thank Cassie Contreras and the beautiful nature of that young lady making that decision at 15 years old in what she did to save 5 lives. So I want to thank y'all. I'm happy to take any questions that y'all may have, but I want to give you that update. My statements are brief today, but that's what's going on at JPS.
I just want to follow up on what you said about organ donations. It is even more important for persons of color to join the organ donation registry, because often matches are race specific. And to the extent that there are not representatives of each ethnic group in the donor pool, then some may be left out when it comes to matching for life-saving procedures.
You're exactly right. Thank you. I appreciate that. And
And
that's very true.
I guess I would venture to say that at least one of us up here doesn't think it's just a number.
Now, give her family a big hug for me, my family.
We will.
Me.
We will.
It may be a numbers game, but it's not a numbers game when it happens to you or
No.
one of your family members. So
No,
thank you very much for highlighting that and bringing it to our attention. And we need to do more in that regard. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Incidentally, I've been an organ donor since 99, 2000.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's something we all should consider. You'll save lives, and some pretty important lives too.
Thank you,
Robert. Thank you.
10 years.
I know. I'm proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
We do have an audience participation today of Brandon Bowman. Mr. Bowman, please come forward. If you wouldn't mind, when you step up to the podium, please repeat your name and give us your address. And I will just state that since what you're discussing is not on the agenda, we're precluded by law from being able to respond today. We talked about that a little bit earlier.
All right, yes, my common name is Brandon Bowman, and because of reasons that I'll explain shortly, people like me, it's not in our best interest to give our address whatsoever. I'll briefly introduce myself, and I thank you for your time and consideration here. I'm even though I don't look like it, a former pilot in the United States Air Force, and I'm a current lawyer, a non-bar member lawyer who assists people charged with nonviolent victimless crimes on 3 continents in a dozen countries. For several years now, I've helped several hundred people defend themselves, their life, their liberty, and their property when they've been denied due process. I've just spent 6 years in Hawaii defending myself and others. That's how I came to do this. And I've just recently moved to this land, commonly known as Texas. I do appreciate the lighthearted nature that you all enjoy with the comedy. I really appreciate that. That's pretty funny. Thanks for your time and the minutes that you'll give me here. I have attempted to, in the past couple weeks ago, get an item agendized so that there would be a response. I called the phone number and talked to a gentleman for about a half an hour. But no matter how I attempted to get an item agendized, I was denied. There was no option given to me whatsoever, and it was repeated at least 10 times that my only option was to come here and to speak in front of you Tuesdays at 10 a.m., and that's why I'm here. Very briefly as well, I noticed that on the back of the form here that this body enjoys contempt power, and I have been held in contempt before for simply the words that I say in a very peaceful and respectful manner as you're seeing here now. And I would ask that if any thought is given to that I first be given a warning to leave with my freedom, and I will, before that is exercised. Okay, I don't believe that's going to happen today. You all seem like very fair and nice gentlemen to me. All right. My issue, basically, gentlemen, is, well, let me break up my notes here, and I'll be very concise, and again, I appreciate everyone's time. I'm a guy who's been, I guess, cursed with I don't seem to have a choice. I must value logic and ethics, and I try to rely on evidence. Does something exist or does it not? And I certainly mean no offense to this body or anybody in this room, but that is why you'll not see me stand pledging my allegiance to a flag or involving myself in words that don't allow a separation of church and state. While I have nothing but respect for other people's beliefs and I don't have a problem with them at all, I simply have a different guidance that I use, and so I don't choose to say those words or to make those pledges. I could really get to the point by stating that my main problem, as I've said, is the infliction of nonviolent victimless criminal charges upon people presumed innocent, where there is no violence and no victim alleging any kind of harm. And this basically comes down to a very simple concept that I can explain very easily and briefly. As I mentioned, I was in the military, and in military courts, they have a different system of justice and a different jurisdiction called the UCMJ. And when you sign up to serve in the military, you sign documentation regarding that jurisdiction, that you agree to be under that jurisdiction. And the unfortunate reality of what we all live under is that, of course, it all stems from the Constitution, 4 pages, over 240 years old. And the jurisdictional issue is not addressed. So specifically, when a district attorney, their office, prosecutions, when they bring a criminal charge before a court, they provide many pieces of documentation, but none of those regards the element of jurisdiction. I myself have done this, and many other people have done this. We've gone into courtrooms and simply asked if we have a right to a fair and meaningful hearing, and they agree. And, we asked, do we have the right to be informed of the cause and nature of the charges and accusations being used against us here today? And they agree, yes, we do. Okay, are we presumed innocent? Yes, you are. Are you presumed innocent am I presumed innocent of every element? Well, yes, you are. Okay, is jurisdiction, the matter of jurisdiction, of whether this court has jurisdiction here or not, is that one of the elements that I'm presumed innocent of? Well, yes, it is. Okay, so am I innocent of jurisdiction? And you see how basic logic just flows here. Then, of course, the next question they're none too happy about is, has the prosecution provided any factual evidence regarding this element of jurisdiction? And that's where the problem and the resistance begins, because it's kind of a catch-22. It's never provided. In the civilian court system, the issue of jurisdiction is never addressed. And it's because some would think that they lack the consent of the governed, and because it's kind of a monopoly on power, and there's bailiffs and security personnel who back the opinions, that it's just presumed, and that's good enough. So men like me and women, we look at just logic and ethics, things like this. If the prosecution never provides any factual evidence regarding the element of jurisdiction, then is due process even happening? Are the people who are ruled, is their input involved in any of this? We just feel that, it's not personal, it's not anyone's fault here in this room, it's just that the creep of taking advantage of the rights and more charges and more fines and more penalties and coercive powers of the state have gotten to the point where a lot of us just, as you can see on the internet, we're not too happy about the current state of affairs. And so when you come from this angle, this is the kind of resistance that you get, and that's why I can't give my address. I've got stories about some members of police who, police are demographic. I know a lot of acquaintances of former police. There's good police, there's not so good police, as we all know, and that's why I can't give my address. I'm going to wrap up my comments here pretty quick. I thank you for your time. There's two things that I'm really just hoping to address that you might consider drafting some legislation on. And by the way, I'd be more than happy to meet with either any of you individually, or to have us just go take a little stroll over to the courthouse, and I'll just whisper in your ear exactly what's going on and why I believe it is going on. The things that I'd like to address, two things are, one, I don't think it's asking for a lot for the people to expect that they should be able to make an audio-only recording of their hearing. If they could make an audio-only recording of their hearing as it happens, they'd be much more able to help defend themselves. As it is right now, they just rely on their memory, which is not great, and or a transcriptionist, which costs money, and a lot of these people don't have money for that. If they ask for a recording, like this meeting is being recorded in many ways right now, they're denied. And it's because, and I've had conversations with the Sheriff's Department because they provide security for the courts, as you know. It's because it's up to judicial discretion. One judge may allow it, the other one may not. But quite often, unless you're a member of the media formally and coercible through that channel, they're not going to allow it. Now, if the courts are just and they're enforcing proper due process and all of these, what do they have to hide? Why no transparency? Why won't they let us just record the audio portion of our own hearings? I don't see how it's violating anyone's privacy. And I more into that, but I'll move on to my second point and then conclude my remarks. The other is, of course, assistance of counsel. When you go in for an arraignment, and by the way, I've faced multiple charges and I've had them all dismissed in Hawaii, so I have personal experience doing this, putting my freedom on the line while doing it. They insist that the only available assistance of counsel comes in the form of a bar member. And it's not that we have anything, against bar members, or, there's lawyers that are good lawyers and judges that are good judges. But when you restrict someone's assistance of counsel to only bar members, you restrict the ways that they're able to defend themselves, and you restrict the very words that they're able to use to defend themselves. If they were to allow people to serve as assistants of counsel, it seems like it would be a much more fair system that would incite much less resistance, a population growing in this way. Now, all of us want peace, and all of us want prosperity in the future, and we see what's going on online. We see what's going on in Almost Park, and Dallas has been no stranger to nationwide stories of this nature, and it seems that we're just trying to use words to solve these problems instead of confrontational violence, right? And in doing so, by allowing assistance of counsel, you allow people to express themselves, to defend themselves in their way, and to be uncoerced by a judge. And as we know, a judge is supposed to be an independent, impartial, fair, and balanced referee. They're not supposed to show bias toward the prosecution. They're not supposed to try and perform the acts of the prosecution. They're not supposed to force uninformed, involuntary pleas like not guilty, guilty, or no contest. I've been to, I don't know how many, a dozen arraignments, and they've not been able to arraign me, to have a plea entered into the record, simply because of the words, like what I'm saying right now, and the manner that I'm saying them right now. And it sounds almost unrealistic, like, well, that must not be true, it's almost too easy, but in fact it is. And it's because a lot of people just don't know, and they're not aware. So the assistance of counsel, if I could be allowed, the courts say, hey, we'll let you sign a waiver, warn you how dangerous it is of not having a lawyer, but allow you to do it and suffer the consequences as if you were a law graduate. They'll allow people to do that, but they won't allow a third party who just doesn't want to sign membership to the bar to assist them in these matters. So, in short, obviously I could fill this room for hours and hours and hours, but in short, this is the gist of what I'm saying. And there's a YouTube channel that if anyone's interested, they can take a look at. I don't do this for money. I've never collected a penny from YouTube or anything online. And it's called Ethics Instead is the name of the channel. And I kind of started it because this area, I moved here 5 weeks ago or so. And it's just about using logic, reason, civil discourse, mutual respect to affect the court of public opinion, which is the one that seems to be where all the power is. So thanks for your time, and thanks for hearing my comments. I much appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck. Have a good day.
Mr. Bowman, thank you for your service. Thank you for being here today and talking with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Your Honor, that's all we have at this time.
Then we will now recess our open meeting and proceed to close to discuss items exempted under section.
Colonial today for lunch, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Having returned from our closed session and there being no business to conduct at this time, we stand adjourned.
Good day.
Colonial, Commissioner.
Colonial?
Yes, sir. I'll see you back at the fort.
Okay.